It's no secret that the award for the worst spell in all of 5th edition is the Cantrip True Strike. That was weird. Anyways, True Strike. It's not alone. D&D has a fair number of spells that are universally thought of as useless. And that kind of sucks. How can we take those spells that are generally thought of as bad and make them not bad? So I took 5 of D&D's most universally accepted bad spells and made them something that you'd want to actually add to your spellbook. So sit back and relax as I take you through 5 of the worst spells in D&D and how to make them better. Let's start off with the undisputed champion of disappointment, True Strike. Can you stop that?
Sorry.
Your magic grants you brief insight into the target's defenses. On your next turn, you gain advantage on the first attack you make against that creature. If you're new to D&D, that might sound pretty good. Advantage on an attack is good, right? Why do people hate that? Well, there are 2 itty-bitty teensy tiny bits of information that make this spell utterly useless. You see, reason 1 is this tiny little C right there. I never understood why people hated the letter C so much, but after looking over this spell, I think I'm starting to understand why my parents were so disappointed with my report cards. But crippling childhood trauma aside, that's not even the worst part because we have this over here. This spell takes an entire action to cast. And you know what else takes an action? That's right, an attack. While some spells do have some incredibly niche uses, True Strike might truly just be useless, and that sucks. So let's make it better. There are 2 ways we can go about fixing True Strike. We could either attack the concentration problem or the action problem. To attack the concentration problem, we adjust the time of the spell and the effect of the spell. Increase concentration up to a minute, and instead of just granting advantage, the next melee attack a creature makes that misses, they instead hit and that consumes the True Strike. On the other hand, if we attack the action problem with this spell, we instead remove concentration entirely and make it either a bonus action or a reaction. However, we have to be a bit more reserved with this approach because advantage for a bonus action or reaction is super powerful. So to circumvent that issue, we have to make it a level spell so that it can't be used every turn. This might sound strong, but it has to be strong because it's competing with other first level spells like Silvery Barbs. Whichever way you decide to change the spell, both of the proposed fixes take this spell from complete garbage to nearly a must-have spell in every caster's spellbook. But honestly, there are thousands of potential fixes for this spell, and those are just 2 of them. And actually, that's a good point. If you have any suggestions on how to fix this spell or others in the video, leave a comment below and let me know, and I'm sure everyone else would be appreciative as well. But now, moving on to the second spell for today's list, we have another cantrip, Friends. Believe it or not, this spell charms a creature into thinking that they're friends with you and gives you advantage on all charisma checks against them for up to a minute. But if we keep reading the spell, we can see that after the minute is up, the creature knows they're charmed and immediately become hostile towards you. So instead of the conversation ending with a goodbye, I'll see you later, it ends with me getting punched in the face. And I don't like getting punched in the face. Not to mention that it only lasts a minute. And no matter how much it hurts me to say this, 1 minute is not a long time. We have 2 possible ways to make Friends better. Firstly, we can simply increase the duration to 10 minutes. This would give the caster enough time to converse with the target without encroaching on charmed person's specialty. The second possible effect would be to add a wisdom save after a minute's up to see if they realize they were charmed. This way, you still get a minute of advantage, but it's still technically a risk to use because there's a chance that they'll know they're charmed rather than a guarantee. I kind of like the second option better with the wisdom save because 10 minutes of advantage charisma checks is a long time, but you know what, hey, I'm just the ideas guy. Remember guys, it's a marathon, not a sprint. What the f*** is wrong with me? Number 3 is Witch Bolt. This spell is thought of as a noob trap because it tricks players into thinking that it's good because it uses a d12 for damage. And while I do love d12s, I do not love Witch Bolt. This spell creates a crackling beam of energy that deals 1 d12 damage on a hit. But once Witch Bolt hits the target, you can maintain the connection and use your actions on your turns thereafter to deal 1 d12 damage again. Allow me to explain why it's not good. Witch Bolt has a range of 30 feet. All Henry has to do to break the connection is walk away from you.
Ow. Ow! That hurts!
What the f? It also requires an action to deal damage on your subsequent turns instead of a bonus action like other similar spells like Heat Metal. Since it's a first level spell, it's competing with other spells like Chaos Bolt or Chromatic Orb, both of which deal on average almost twice the amount of damage as Witch Bolt. First and most importantly, I would increase the range from 30 feet to 60 feet. Just double it. Witch Bolt just flat out needs this to be even worth looking at. But from here, there are two possible ways of fixing it. Option 1 is that you fix the damage and just leave it as an action for your subsequent turns. Making this 3d6 damage instead of 1d12 damage takes the average from 6.5 all the way up to 10.5 average damage per round. This brings it in line with other first level spells in terms of damage, but still slightly weaker, so it's not as powerful as the single one and done spell slots that we know and love. Option 2 on the other hand is much more simple. Rather than requiring an action on your subsequent turns, just make it a bonus action. This would deal significantly less damage than your other first level spells, but it frees up your action to do other things. It also maintains its placement as a first level spell without encroaching on the second level spell Heat Metal that has a similar effect. So yeah, those are the ways I'd fix Witch Bolt. Next up, we have another problem cantrip with Blade Warden. This spell costs an action and grants the caster resistance to slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning damage from a weapon attack. And that's it. Now, taking half damage,
That's pretty good.
as it stands, the spell is functional, but functional does not equal fun.
And that's pretty bad.
The issue with fixing this spell in particular is that any small change can very quickly take it from niche to overpowered. So in order to fix Blade Ward, I have to change a couple of things. Firstly, I would make it a bonus action. This change alone would make it overpowered because a caster would just use it every round to get resistance every single turn for a bonus action. But that's why the second change I would make to Blade Ward is I would up it to a first level spell. This would balance it out so a caster can't just get free resistance forever. Third, I would remove the weapon damage restriction because it's just a specification that makes the spell needlessly worse, and I don't even know why it was included in the first place. This makes the spell much more versatile without necessarily increasing its relative power, and gives casters a new choice to make in combat. Honestly, Blade Ward was a pretty difficult spell to adjust, but I think the changes I suggested take the spell from being usable to an actually enjoyable new spell option. Just like how you'll enjoy liking and subscribing. But with that shameless plug out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the final spell for today, the 7th level Mordenkainen's Sword. At first glance, this spell sounds f***ing awesome. You summon a spectral sword to fight alongside you. Except that's not really it.
What do you mean?
The spell costs an action to cast and allows you to use your bonus action afterwards to attack with the sword, just like the 2nd level spell Spiritual Weapon.
But since it's 7th level, it should do a bunch more damage, right?
Oh, I wish. Mordenkainen's Sword only deals 3d10 damage for an average of 16.5 damage per round.
Wait, this is a 7th level spell?
Yep, and for comparison, the 2nd level spell Spiritual Weapon deals 1d8 plus your spellcasting ability modifier.
I'm bad at math. Can you make it easier?
Sure I can. The 5th level spell of Bigby's Hand works functionally the same, except it deals 4d8 damage for an average of 18 damage.
But isn't 18 more than 16?
It sure is, and I'm not even done. Mordenkainen's Sword can only move 20 feet per bonus action, while Bigby's Hand, the 5th level spell, can move 60 feet. So not only can it deal more damage, it can also move significantly farther, making it much easier to use.
Okay, dude, it's just a game. You don't need to get so mad.
I'm not even done! The worst part is that another 7th level spell, Crown of Stars, works functionally the same and deals 4d12 damage with a 120-foot range.
Wait, what the f***? Why would anyone pick Mordenkainen's Sword?
They wouldn't! There is quite literally no reason to pick Mordenkainen's Sword as your 7th level spell.
But Lee, how do we fix it?
Let's look at other similar spells and use those to see how we can fix Mordenkainen's Sword. Spiritual Weapon is a 2nd level spell and deals 1d8 plus your spellcasting ability modifier of damage. Bigby's Hand is a 5th level spell and deals 4d8 damage. And Crown of Stars is a 7th level spell and deals 4d12 damage. This clearly places Mordenkainen's Sword somewhere around a 4th level spell. But that's not what I'm going to do because that's a lame fix. To do this, I have 3 changes. Change number 1, we make it a 5th level spell, just like Bigby's Hand. However, unlike Bigby's Hand, Mordenkainen's Sword is purely for damage. So for change number 2, I would focus on that damaging property of the spell, only rather than increase the raw numbers that it deals, I would instead give it the multi-attack feature. Giving it 2 attacks per bonus action increases its damage output and highlights the entire focus of the spell over Bigby's hand, which has much more versatile uses. And for change number 3, I would increase the movement to 60 feet to make the spell actually usable. All of these changes highlight its purpose and make it not only a really cool spell, but one that earns the namesake of being Warden Kindan's sword. Now before we finish for today, I do have to state that all of these are just ideas and by no means perfect, so if you have any suggestions on how to make these spells better, leave a comment below and let me know. I read every comment, almost always reply, and who knows, I might even feature your comment in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on Friday.